Hi, my name is Clayton Benn, and we're here today with Liz Osowiecki, representing the Safe Center of Long Island. Could you tell me about you and what your organization does?
Yeah, so the Safe Center is a nonprofit agency in Bethpage. We serve survivors for free of sexual assault, domestic violence, child abuse, and human trafficking. So we have counselors, we have advocates, we have lawyers, we have support groups, we have all different kinds of services for our survivors, as we refer to them as.
Nice. I didn't quite mention this, but I represent the Brotherhood of St. Andrew, and part of our ministry is dealing with men and youth. One of the things that is very topical now in the news is sexual assault, sexual abuse. Could you define those terms for me, please?
Yeah, so it was really great to be here speaking with the Brotherhood of St. Andrew and all of the young men that were here to, show their awareness and caring about these kinds of issues. So we talked a lot about sexual assault and how that's not only the physical aspect of rape that a lot of people think. So we broke it down a little bit for the men to talk about how they can ask for consent so that they are not sexually assaulting, which just means forcing sexual contact on anyone without getting consent first. So we kind of explained it in the way that harassment is using sexual intimidation, but it's hands off. Sexual assault is the same thing. It's for intimidation, it's for power, it's not about sex, but it is hands on, and usually when contact is made. So yeah.
So harassment is more verbal and assault is physical.
Yeah,
Correct.
absolutely.
Now, are they both crimes?
Yeah, they both are considered crimes. There's different levels to all of them under the penal law, and in colleges and on college campuses, the laws are even different there, and the structure and how they handle them is different on colleges versus New York State versus other states. So it is important to even just understand the laws of consent.
How prevalent is sexual abuse, sexual harassment? As you know, in the news, it's seemingly every day or every other day, at least every week within recent times, we've had men being accused of sexual harassment and or abuse.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, how prevalent has it been? Like, what statistics do you have?
Unfortunately, it is such a prevalent issue among men and women, among all ages. So we use the statistic that I'm hoping will eventually be 1 in a million, but we use that 1 in 5 women are being assaulted. But these numbers come from reports, from statistics that are gained from reports and through people coming forward. So the fact that 1 in 4 girls are sexually abused before they're 18 and 1 in 6 boys are sexually abused before they're 18, that comes from adults disclosing that something had happened to them. We also know that many people don't ever disclose what happened to them. And some of the social media movements and some of the other ways that they've been gaining solidarity to allow people to come forward is just on social media or in just support groups, but it is kind of scary. We feel almost that there's not one person who has not been a victim of some form of harassment or assault.
Wow.
Yeah.
What are some of the prevention tactics or tips that you could recommend based upon your expertise and your work at the Safe Center?
Yeah, so I love to emphasize the idea that we teach prevention as far as protect yourself rather than understanding consent and understanding boundaries and respect, and that we're not entitled to certain things. And that's how we teach that, by empowering people to work for what they deserve and those kinds of things. So instead of having a parent who teaches their child to protect themselves, you have a parent who teaches their child to respect others and to not feel like they are above the law or above everything. When your parents say, oh, that teacher was wrong and you're right, the principal, they're wrong too, you're right, you're perfect, then those people do feel like they are entitled to things. So we do just try to break it down, showing examples and making sure we teach it not in the sense of protect yourself, but in the sense of don't act in this way, learn about consent, respect when people say no. And I think that that can change the entire culture where it wouldn't even be an issue.
Right.
Yeah.
What would you say are some of the telltale signs or red flags of someone who's either in a sexual abusive relationship or sexual harassment type scenario?
So trying to recognize these kinds of things, it can be hard, especially in these days with social media where we are posting only the best, perfect parts of our lives, and we'll have people posting their gifts all the time. Oh, I have a perfect partner, when those gifts have been apologies for the abuse that took place the day before. And for other people, that relationship looks perfect. So the red flags and the signs to look for are more of those predatory type behaviors, because we think that we need to look for the white van and look for the stranger who looks a little creepy, when meanwhile we should be looking among our own group of friends, our own best friends, and realizing that that person has some skewed views about who's inferior and who's superior, and those kinds of things are more telling if that person is more likely. Their views about society, their views about the opposite sex tell more if they are going to abuse rather than them just engaging in that. Or
yeah. Now, I think you gave a statistic earlier today about who
how
has
many
a familiar.
people knowing. So that is referring to acquaintance rape, and that is so much more common, where usually up to 90% of victims do know their perpetrator, because these situations are happening in isolated situations. So it is often somebody that the person that invited you to the party, the person who knew where you'd be at that moment. That's how they can get that isolated situation. We see with the same thing about teaching children stranger danger, when 97% of sexual assaults are occurring between someone that child knows. It's their piano teacher, their karate coach. It's always somebody that has access, not the person who is abducting and kind of making themselves obvious. It's someone who grooms the family and grooms the whole situation.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Two more questions. What should someone do if you are in a sexual harassment scenario, if you are being sexually harassed?
So that's sometimes the scariest thing, because the reason that someone is using sexual harassment or sexual assault is to intimidate you and make sure that you don't speak up or say anything. So it is hard to be that person. That's why I love to teach the bystander piece, and how if somebody else notices, because sometimes you're in it, you don't even know, or you blinded by love. So it is important for other people to be able to recognize, just step in and let people know there's help available, because that's all we can do. We can never rescue anyone from their situation. We can just let them know what is healthy versus what's not, and that there is help if you are ever feeling that you are in an unhealthy situation. But yeah, for people in that situation, we do just remind them that there is so many free services.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What could you inform us of some of these different resources that are available to people, whether it's you, the person themselves, or if there's a friend or relative who is in that situation? What are some of these resources that are available to them?
So there are hotlines that people can call. That Safe Center has a 24/7 hotline that really is 24/7 and will never be an operator, as well as Safe Horizon for the boroughs that has, because Safe Center is Nassau County, the Safe Horizon is more of the boroughs, and then VIBES, the Victim Information Bureau of Suffolk. That is an organization that does similar work in Suffolk. So there's always, and there's national hotlines as well, and also chat lines, because sometimes you don't have access to a phone, or your abuser has the phone and they check who you talk to. So having those things online, we have text chats, so there's all different ways, and just having support as well is really important. That's why we have the advocates, where some people will end up in the hospital, and from there they would have went back with their abuser. They just needed medical help in the moment, but as an advocate we can go and remind them of their power and of their meaning, and then that sometimes inspires them to get help.
Gotcha. More specifically to your the Safe Center of Long Island, if it is they wanted to contact you or get more information, what should people do?
So the Safe Center, our 24/7 hotline, that number is 516-542-0404. That, like I said, will always be a trained trauma counselor that will answer that call, and they can schedule you an intake the next day, or that number will be called if you end up in a hospital in Nassau for one of these situations, which unfortunately I have seen: trafficking, child abuse, sexual assault, partner abuse of all ages. So an advocate would come out from the Safe Center at any time of the night, the day, and meet you at the hospital. So that's just helpful, where you feel like you're completely alone and someone just reminds you that you're not. So it's more meaningful and helpful than we sometimes even realize, to have that just support right there. It's like just having a best friend who, sometimes you have the best friend who you don't even want them there, but they say, I'm going to stay here by your side. And that's what I do as an advocate, and it's helpful.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Liz. Thank you for your time, and thanks for spending some time with the Brotherhood of St. Andrew.
Thank you for having me.